Hello, everybody. So today we are going to look at securing your Azure Key Vault using private endpoints. This is very important in case your Azure Key Vault is still reachable from the public internet. So let's try to fix this without breaking our apps. And in a few minutes, we'll disable public access and switch to a private endpoint so traffic stays inside our VNet, right? So in terms of prerequisites, we will need a virtual network, we will need the key vault, we will need the DNS, private DNS zone, and a couple of other things that we will figure out as we go through. So I'm going to start with a very simple example right here. As you can see, this is one of the key vaults that we used before. This is located in Germany West Central. It's a premium key vault. And now if we are going to networking, we will see two tabs here, firewall and virtual networks and private endpoint connections. In terms of firewall and virtual networks, we can see that this is allow public access from all networks. And in terms of private endpoint connections, we currently do not have any private endpoint connection. Next step would be here to go to the private DNS zone. We would need to create a private DNS zone called exactly like this, privatelink.vaultcore.azure.net. This is the standard format that you need to do. And inside of here, we will have record sets of, for example, in this scenario, a key vault that I created beforehand to test a new video, right? So now that we have this, we also need a virtual network, of course. I have created a virtual network that sits in the same region as the key vault. It's not necessary, but I prefer to have everything in the same region. And in this subnet, in this virtual network, we have a fairly large default subnet, the /24, like 250 IPs, right? So first thing you need to do is ensure that in your tab right here where you have the DNS, you will have the link created. If you have not created the link, all you have to do is create link, and then you would have here the private DNS link that you created beforehand. So, and first step is create a private DNS zone, use that to link to your virtual network. Then you click add, and that's all. You can enable auto registration if you want, but that's all it is. Cool. So how do we test and ensure that this that this key vault is secure? First, we are going to test how the connection is happening right now. So I am moving right now to the next tab. This tab is my demo section on what we can do is run this command. Mind you, I do have the access, so I am going to run this. As you can see, you have successfully discovered this secret. That means that we have already a secret enabled here. So let me just do this again, just to show you. Yep, you have successfully discovered this secret. This secret sits in our key vault, and I'm going to show you in the func core right here under secrets, test or back fail, enabled. I'm going to see the secret value. So currently, because there's no private endpoint, I connected from my laptop. I had the right credentials for the authorization part, so everything worked just fine. Now, let's assume that we want to move this key vault in a secure virtual network. We have everything else that we need to configure, set up. So we created the private DNS zone. We are going to go to the networking tab, private endpoint connections, and we are going to create a private endpoint. We are going to select here. We're going to provide a name. We're going to move here, and we have really two options to connect this. We either provide a resource ID or we manually go through this process and we say vault. We are going to look at Microsoft Key Vault vaults. In terms of resource, we are going to ping func core, the one that we decided we are going to go to the private endpoint, and it automatically discovers the vault right here. Under the virtual network, we are going to select the virtual network in which we want to have this private endpoint. We are going to create we are also going to select here the subnet. If you want, you can statically allocate the IP address or dynamically. That's fine. We're not going to bother with the dynamically with the application security group. We're going to move to the DNS part, right? So right here, because we already have the DNS zone created, the private DNS zone, and it's linked to this VNet, you have the option to integrate the private DNS zone. You click yes or no. We want to do this. If you were not having everything set up correctly up until now, you would have here the option to create it in this process, in this step. But usually when you are in a large enterprise or an environment, you would already have created the DNS zones and all that, right? So we look here, we double check to see that everything is fine. Yep, it looks good. We're moving to the tags. We don't care about tags. We are going to do a review and create. So we are going to create this. While this is creating, I'm going to go back to my drawing board so I can show you better what this means. So consider you have here your client. This client comes from the internet and he wants to reach to your key vault. This is your key vault, right? He's going to go through the public network and he's going to have here the public network enabled. That's how we did it right a few seconds ago, right? So as you've seen in our demo in VS Code, everything was working. We managed to get to the respective key vault. So with this in mind, we want to make sure that only our applications that sit in our virtual network, so private, will have access. That means no one from the public internet should have access to our key vault, not even to reach it. It's not about authorizing access to it, rather than to getting to a point where you reach the key vault, right? So let's move and see here, as it seems that this one has been deployed. We're going to go to the private endpoint. We will see the network interface card, because really what it is, it's a private endpoint network interface card that links everything together. So I am going to go back and check that the Func core has the necessary connections. We can see the state is approved. We can see the sub resource. And now we need to make sure that we disable public access. You can allow trusted services to bypass this if you want. We'll just click apply for the moment. Okay, so now with this change in mind, we should go back to our example right here and see if we can reach again this key vault. As you can see, although we have the public name of this key vault, we have an error here called forbidden public network access is disabled and request is not from a trusted service nor via a approved private link, which is exactly what we want. Basically, what we did here, we forbid my laptop, which is on the public internet, to reach out to the key vault. So hopefully this makes sense. The reason we did this is to protect our key vault from external access. In case we have an application, say web app and a VM and a storage and a key vault. You want that key vault only to talk with the storage account, with the virtual net, with the virtual machine and all that. So, but you do not want it to talk with anything outside. Let's say we want to ensure that this works from a private connection. For this topic, I have created a virtual machine. This virtual machine sits in the same area and in the same region, and it on the network. So we have a private IP address, as you can very well see here, right? That means that our key vault is in the same private subnet, or the private endpoint is in the same private subnet like our virtual machine. So we should be able to reach to the key vault using this. So I have already created a connection to this virtual machine. So you can see here that I am on the virtual machine called KB, and I'm going to run this command to see how it works. As you can see, you have successfully discovered this secret. Now, let's go back for a second and understand how this works in terms of flow. We have here a virtual network. This is our virtual network that we created. In this virtual network, we have a subnet. Let's just label this one subnet. And this is a virtual network. Cool. Now let's create our private DNS zone right here. I'm just going to label it PDNS. And let's create our key vault here. Remember, key vault is a PaaS service, so it doesn't live in your subnet, but your virtual machine does. So I'm going to create here a box that we are going to label VM. This is the virtual machine that we are using to connect to this one, right? So, and I'm also going to create right here in the same subnet. Let me just redraw this one here, VM, and right here I'm going to create like a small circle like this, because this is the private endpoint that we configured in order for the Key Vault to be reachable from our environment. Cool. So what's going to happen? Because we linked the private DNS with our virtual network, the VM will ask Azure DNS, hey, who is Funk, Core, all that, right? And Azure DNS will say, oh, well, I have a record of this, of that particular resource in our environment. So to better showcase this one, we are going to go to networking, private connections, and you will see here we have a private endpoint. We click on the private endpoint. This private endpoint is linked to this network interface card, and this network interface card has a private IPv4 address, which is 10.0.0.5. In order for us to check this one, we're going to go to the private DNS zones. As I said, private link vault core, record sets, and right here you can see the vault core IP address. And this is the one that's being retrieved from private DNS zone, from our virtual machine that we connected to this key vault. So let's try again here, see if that wasn't any sort of mistake. But as you can see, we are still not able to reach this key vault from the public network. So in terms of information, we are going to establish the following. So I'm going to move back. So we are going to have key vault. We're going to say networking, private endpoint connections, and moving back right here, we're going to say private endpoint. So this is the flow basically that you will do in the key vault in order to connect to a private endpoint using this method. Another important thing that you need to do under the networking is to disable public access. This is very important for you to understand, because although once you have your private endpoint created, you still need to disable this just to be sure, because it is very important to be sure on all of these things. Hopefully this was a helpful way of understanding how we can confidently secure our key vault in our private network. And what this will allow you to do is ensure that no one without the right access to reach the key vault can even try to get out of your key vault data. If you enjoyed this video, let me know and subscribe for more tutorials, more explanations on this, and have a nice day.